Hey, all, welcome back to the Fire and Water Cooking and Travel Podcast. I am Darren, of course. I'll be your host. Today, we got a special guest, Mr. Meathead Goldwyn. He's been on our podcast before, but today we're talking about his new book, The Meathead Method, that is on beyond sale May 13th of 2025, and you can pre-order it right now on Amazon and anywhere you buy books. I'll be right back with Mr. Meathead Goldwyn. Welcome to the Fire and Water Cooking and Travel Podcast, where we discuss all things food, cooking, and travel related. Join us as we discuss all different types of cooking methods, cooking styles, all different types of food and restaurants. And of course, we'll talk about travel as it relates to foodie travel, like cruises, all different kinds of food tours, and all that. We'll have on special guests to talk about cooking methods and cooking styles, and also travel. Make sure you subscribe, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Hey all, welcome back to Fire and Water Cooking and Travel Podcast. It's been a while since I've done an episode, but I've had to actually do one here because I had a request from Mr. Meathead Goldwyn to talk about his new book. I love Meathead. I've had Meathead on the podcast a few times already. And he just said we're brothers from another mother because we both have the very same interests in cooking and science. So without further ado, I want to introduce Mr. Meathead Goldwyn of AmazingRibs.com.
Hello, Darren.
Meathead, in case people don't know who you are, just give me a brief history of who you are and what you do.
It was a dark and stormy night. I was a journalism major in college. I got my master's in photography. My dad was a food science major and had a butcher shop. And it all just kind of came together. I did a lot of writing and photography, and in the 1990s, I ran the AOL Food and Drink Network, which was, in the 90s, AOL was Facebook. AOL just ran the internet. You couldn't get on the internet without Facebook or without AOL. And, it just kind of blossomed. And in the year 2000, I built a website, AmazingRibs.com, because I loved barbecue. I had been the wine critic for the Washington Post and the Chicago Tribune. Not well known fact. I went to the University of Florida and I worked in a liquor store and got into wine. And what really made me fall in love with wine, aside from the fact it tasted great, is my professors would come in and ask for recommendations. And I always felt like if I turned them on to a good wine, it kind of helped my grades. And so I, just food, wine, it all just came together. I built AmazingRibs.com. I think it was the first website devoted to barbecue. And it grew. It's still the largest and the most popular, but now there's a bazillion of them out there. Every mom and pop with a grill has a blog. We're not a blog. We're a website. There's over 2,000 free pages. And we have a portion of the website that is membership. We have 15,000 people who pay for membership. That's our business model. We were among the first websites to have a paid membership. And back in 2014, I think we launched it. And it's really cool. A lot of great information in there. The members swap recipes, and we police it, and so do they. There's no politics, no race, no religion. In more than 10 years, we've only had to kick about 8 or 10 people out. It's just a very friendly, civil environment.
I'm sharing it now. Story. So there it is, AmazingRibs.com. And I am a member of the Pitmaster Club, which I highly recommend because it is very informative. If anything you want to know about barbecue or cooking in general, that's one of the things I want to touch.
Share it, but it's a blank. I'm seeing a blank screen.
Oh, really? It's showing.
No big deal. Anybody who wants to can join for a 30-day free trial, and you don't have to enter a credit card. Just take the 30-day free trial, and you'll see what's there. There's over 120 really good broadcast quality videos from great pitmasters like Tuffy Stone and Harry Sue and Matt and just there's so many great videos in there. So go take the 30-day free trial.
It's a lot of great information for sure.
Thank you.
And it's like I said, I think it's a misnomer to say it's just a barbecue website. It's amazingribs.com, of course, and everybody associates that with barbecue, but there's a lot of cooking knowledge and information and science in there that people can take into any type of cooking practice.
Well, do you want to jump right into controversy? Because you sent me some notes about some of the things you wanted to talk about. And one of the topics was the difference between barbecue and grilling.
Yeah,
and
let's talk about
I'm ready.
that.
I'm ready to argue it.
Well, I thought that because, like I said, I grew up in upstate New York, and Cornell chicken. That was our barbecue. We didn't really have pulled pork and brisket up there. The brisket we had was just braised, in an oven or on the stove. So,
well, I lived in Ithaca, which is where Cornell is for many years, 18 years, I think, while my wife got her PhD. And Cornell chicken, which is just marinated and grilled chicken. But it's a good marinade, and it's the recipe and the concept. I have it on amazingribs.com, and I've kind of twisted it a little bit, updated to modern times.
And what I was getting at is that, that's what we called barbecue. We didn't really have low and slow. So when we said, let's go have a barbecue, it was grilling. And once I got older, I figured out that, there's a difference between barbecue and
I don't know. And that's why I wanted to take it on, and why I said I'm willing to do a little arguing here. I don't know how you split, where you draw the line. People say grilling is hot and fast, barbecue is low and slow. Okay. What temperature is hot and fast, and what temperature is low and slow? Where do you draw that line? And if you go out and look at the competitions now, barbecue competitions, they're cooking brisket pretty hot. A lot hotter.
Pretty fast.
Used to be everybody did low and slow barbecue at 225. Now it's up at 325, 350. I don't know where you draw the line and how you draw the line. I think they're both terms that overlap, and anybody who tries to separate them and say, well, that's not barbecue, that's grilling, I think I can tear that argument down. And in fact, on amazingribs.com, I have a really long, boring treatise where I try to do exactly that. Explain that the line is fuzzy, and it's not worth arguing about. They're both cooked with fire. They're both cooked with flame. You can't draw the line. Call it barbecue, call it grilling, call it whatever the hell you want. As long as it tastes good, I'm eating it.
Exactly. And I've never got involved in those kind of arguments where people say it's got to be this way, or this is that, and this is, it's written in stone. And I'm always one, especially with cooking, it can, getting into the regional, different regions of what barbecue is to different regions. You got Memphis barbecue, and you got Kansas City barbecue, you got Texas barbecue, you got South Carolina, North Carolina, two different kinds of barbecue in North Carolina. So,
and it all probably started in Mesopotamia.
Yeah.
Or China.
But it all tastes
or
good.
both.
And people will argue until they're blue in the face over which one's better, which one's this, or which one's traditional. But as long as it tastes good, I'm with you. I'm eating it,
Well, the word traditional makes my spine crawl.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
I did some really nice recipes for a caprese salad, and I threw some capers in there. And boy, did I hear about, that's not caprese salad with capers for crying out loud. They call it the culinary arts, and all the arts are based on creativity. Exactly. And all the great chefs are always out there diddling and fiddling and having fun. And look at what's going on in the barbecue world right now. I mean, down in hanging around in Texas recently, I went to an Ethiopian barbecue joint where there were Ethiopian flavors on the smoked meats, and Mexican and Spanish, and in fact, I have a new book coming out, The Meathead Method. There it is over my shoulder.
Yeah, we're going to
It's
talk
coming
about
out
that. Don't
May
worry.
13. And that's a lot of what I try to do in the book is break outside the box. I mean, we all can cook ribs and brisket and pulled pork, but how about some tricks for cooking lobster? You know a really great technique. Raise your hand if you love Chinese food. Everybody got a hand up there. Okay, everybody in the audience got a hand up. I love Chinese food. I try to stir fry it on my gas stove. I got a gas stove flame. I just can't get the wok hot enough to replicate the Chinese restaurant experience. Because when you throw the meat in there, if it's not hot enough, it doesn't fry. It braises and the liquids run and it's
You don't get the
tasty, but it's
wok.
just not. Well, you know how to do great Chinese food at home? I use a charcoal chimney.
Yeah.
For your audience, in case there's somebody out there who doesn't know what a charcoal chimney is, it looks like a coffee can, and it's got a little fake bottom, and you put newspaper or something under there, and you put charcoal on top, and it helps ignite the charcoal for when you're grilling with charcoal. It's not designed to be a grill, but I'm out there one night, and I'm lighting up my charcoal grill. I'm going to grill some steaks, and the flame coming out of my charcoal chimney at dusk is glowing blue. It looks like the back end of an F-35. And I take the grate out of my Weber kettle and throw it on top of the charcoal chimney. And I take the steak, and it happened to be mutually something that you and I share. We both enjoy fiddling with sous vide.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do a lot of it anymore, but I there are some things that were really good. And a good ribeye sous vide is really tender and juicy, but it looks like hell and it needs to be seared. And I threw this steak on top of this charcoal chimney, a minute or two on each side, and boom, fantastic crust. So the next thing I think of, I'm putting my wok on there.
Right.
And oh my goodness, it's hot enough to do Chinese restaurant quality food. One trick, if you want to try it at home, I write about it in my new book, but I'll give you the secret sauce right now. The wok sits on top of the charcoal chimney, and combustion gases build up beneath the wok, and it can extinguish the charcoal somewhat. So if you're going to try this, and you should, absolutely should, get your drill out and drill a few holes just below the top of the chimney. Or I use tin snips, just cut a couple of V-shaped slots in there. You want to let air in and gases out. And it'll burn for an hour or more at well over 1,000 degrees. And you can make great Chinese food. And that's one of the tricks that's in the book. So
that's a very good trick.
Now, is that barbecue or grilling now? What the hell is that?
That's right. It's like I said, like you said, if it tastes good, we're eating it, right? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to call it. And one of the things, like I said, I'm a KCBS, certified judge for competitions.
Yeah, me too.
And, and I go and I judge. And my favorite part of the competition is Friday night where they do the ancillaries, where it's everything goes. You'll get shrimp, you'll get lobster, you'll get all kinds of different food. And the Saturday, you get just the same old stuff over and over again. You get sick of eating the same kind of ribs and the same chicken.
Amen.
And they all try to make it taste the same, and it's look the same, and it's so boring to me. And the state competitions
I don't get tired
are like
of it.
that,
I love good ribs.
Oh, I love it
right.
too, but it's just more boring. That's why I prefer to do the Friday night ancillaries, because you get different stuff. You're not getting the same thing over and over again.
The competition meats all taste the same, or they're close.
Yeah, right.
And I have entered one competition in my life, and it was early in my barbecue life, and I figured, okay, in business, the way you succeed is to be distinctive, to be different.
Mm-hmm.
You have to differentiate your business from everybody else. You can't just be another gas station on the corner. And so, my website has tried and is successful at being differentiated. So I tried in my very first and only in my life competition to do a South Carolina mustard sauce on the pulled pork, which is really a nice touch. I mean, it really works well on pulled pork. Better, it's not all that great on ribs, but I love these mustard sauces on pulled pork.
Hmm.
And I came in dead last
Yeah.
because you don't do that. You
Right.
don't do that. You have to have Sweet Baby Ray profile, or one of those popular profiles now that are used out there. And it's too bad. I would love to see more creativity, but the judges aren't receptive to that. And
Well, it's not the judge, it's just the way that the competitions are set up. They
yeah,
they have this is what it's supposed to be, and the steak competitions have gotten that way too, where I've never seen a completely round ribeye like you see in the steak cook-off. I mean, I don't go to a steakhouse. If they served me a round ribeye that looked like a hockey puck, I'd send it back. I wouldn't eat it. This isn't a ribeye. So, but that's what they do now in the
yeah.
steak
Well, the other
SCA.
thing about the steak cook-off, and I've railed about this, is I love grill grates. They're fantastic. It's a product, if your audience is not familiar with it. It's a grate that sits on top of your grill that has like railroad rails down it, and it makes incredibly beautiful grill marks. But I hate grill marks.
Yeah.
Grill marks are the Maillard reaction. And the Maillard reaction creates flavor. It's a chemical reaction that happens when very high heat interacts with proteins and amino acids, and it turns the surface brown. And that's why, when you do a roast, the end cut is so flavorful because it's got a lot of Maillard reaction
Hmm.
to it. But if you do sous vide and you take it out of the bag, there's no Maillard. It's butt ugly. And if you do competition in the steak competition cook-offs, they all have these magnificent, beautiful crisscross tic-tac-toe grill marks on them. And those grill marks are Maillard reaction. But in between those grill marks is unfulfilled potential.
Exactly.
Is meat that is gray. And
Yeah.
I want to see it brown all over. I want the surface mahogany from edge to edge. And
I have a
a couple of years ago, KCBS launched their own steak cooking competition, and they specifically said they don't want grill marks. And I did a little dance in the hallway here.
yeah. Well, and I totally agree with you. My art reaction is flavor, and if you see grill marks, I think of the Salisbury steaks that you used to get in the Swanson frozen dinners. The fake
Oh, you
pattern.
just dated yourself, dude.
I
I know how
know.
old you are now.
But it's crazy. But I have a set of those grill grates, but I use them the way that you showed me how to
Yeah.
use them, with putting the pellets in there
Yeah.
and grilling stuff, and then getting that smoke flavor. So
Well,
that's the only thing I use them for anymore.
it's especially good for things that cook quickly, like fish.
Yeah, yeah,
Fish goes very fast. I mean, you absolutely do not want to go past 125 if you can avoid it. And if you put fish on the grill or anywhere, it rapidly hits that mark. But if you want a smoke flavor, those grill grates, and if you're not familiar with them, Google grill grates. It's a trademark. It's one word, and there's these rails, and in between there's this little platform, and you can throw sawdust, or as Darren and I both do, pellets in there, and they sit just below the fish. They don't touch the fish, but they immediately start smoking. So if you're going to do, I think it's absolutely balls amazing on Chilean sea bass. And I'll take a piece of Chilean sea bass, maybe an inch thick, and put it on there. And after 2 or 3 minutes on one side, they're golden. I mean, it puts a
yeah.
golden sheen on it. It looks like jewelry. And you flip it and you bring it off, and the smoke flavor is delicate because it's not been there a long time.
Right. You don't
And
want it to overpower your fish anyway, so you want it to
so
be a delicate. Yeah.
so this too is one of the methods. You see, my first book was called Meathead, and it sold 250,000 copies and is still going strong. I just got my royalty check for it. It's going to hit 300,000 before it's done. And it's got a lot of science and some good recipes, but the recipes tend to be kind of classic, traditional from the barbecue canon. The new book, The Meathead Method, I really try to explore different methods like we just talked about, throwing pellets in between the grill grates. so you can get close proximity smoke in a hurry without over smoking, and it's dead simple, and it's so beautiful. Or cooking on a wok, either after sous vide or stir fry. Here can I share another one?
Sure.
Um, Raise your hand if you love fried chicken.
Everybody loves
Everybody's
fried
hands
chicken.
going up. Yeah. I love fried chicken. I just can't cook it in the house. My wife banned it. I mean, you start fried chicken on the stovetop, especially if you're using a cast iron frying pan. And before long, the stovetop is covered with oil and spatters, and it's gone beyond the stovetop. It's on the counter. Some of it gets on the floor. It sets off the smoke alarm, and it stinks up the kitchen for hours.
Right.
I take it outside to my gas grill. Yes, I have a gas grill, and I have a charcoal grill. I have everything. I
Yeah.
take it out to my
Me
gas
too.
grill, and I use a large Dutch oven. So if it spatters, it doesn't spatter far. And put an inch or two of oil in there, bring it up to 375. 350 to 375 is your magic number for deep frying. So bring it in there on my charcoal grill, gas grill, bring it up to 375, and I use two zones: hot flame under the Dutch oven, and the other side is off. And when it hits 375, in goes the chicken. And you do your standard, whatever your favorite dredge or is. You can do pickle brines, you can do Cheerios, you can do flour. I just do flour. In any
I do
case,
sous vide. I sous vide the chicken first, and then
oh, I did that this week, and it was a revelation. Oh my God,
yeah.
I thought that was an invention of mine.
Oh,
Son
that's
of
one
a
of my
bitch.
favorite ways to make fried chicken because you can
Oh
get
my
it cooked
God,
all
you're
the way. You don't
right.
have to
You're
worry
right.
about it being raw in the middle.
You don't have to worry about undercooking it, because
Yeah.
when you fry chicken, it goes pretty quick. And I
Yeah.
want it golden on the outside. If you push it so that the center is safe, it often takes the exterior to brown,
Right.
especially if you've dunked in eggs or buttermilk. And I don't use either because I don't want it to go brown. I use pickle brine. But I did for the first time this week. I sous vided it first,
Mm-hmm.
and then I breaded it and fried it, and it was fantastic because it was so
Yeah.
juicy.
Yeah. And it gets
And I was
cooked
going to write
all the
about
way.
it
You don't have to
thinking I
worry about. You don't have to
invented
overcook
something. I
it.
thought I invented.
Oh,
Ah,
that's.
God. Well, it's good to know you beat me
I
to
think
it.
Kenji invented it. So
No, did Kenji? I don't think so.
no, he's probably one of
Um,
the first ones that played around with it. So before this podcast is sponsored by Fire and Water Travel Services. Let us help plan the foodie vacation of a lifetime for you. Whether it's an ocean or river cruise, tours of Europe, all-inclusive resorts in the Caribbean, anything you need, we can help plan it and customize it for you. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, check out fireandwatertravel.com, and also check out our YouTube channel for videos on travel. Played around with it. So before we get too deep in your book, because that's the next thing I want to talk about, I want to talk about, since you've been in this business a long time, I don't want to date you, but you said, it was the 90s when you kind of, started getting into this. How have you seen the outdoor cooking segment, just the outdoor cooking segment has changed over those years? I mean, I've only been in this, as a professional hobby, I would say, for the last maybe 6 or 7 years. And then just in that short amount of time, it's changed a lot. Just the
yeah.
equipment's changed. A lot of the techniques have changed. I bet you've seen a lot more change over the years. And how do you keep up with it?
I don't as much as I'd like to. I'm 76 years old now. I've got more than two. I've got a team of really talented people around me, and I'm turning over more and more of the day-to-day operations of the website to them, and they're on top of it. But yes, I mean, I have seen, all the equipment changes. The most prominent, of course, has been the appearance of pellet smokers. That is the biggest sea change. The improvement of stick burners. There have been some really, getting reverse flow stick burners was a big deal. Um, uh, you know, um, Charcoal. I still use briquettes. I still think they're the best for heat management. I mean, charcoal chimney holds 80 Kingsford briquettes. That's a known quantity of energy. Half of a chimney holds 40. When I use lump, God knows how much energy I'm going to get out of there. And they're always spitting and popping sparks and creating more smoke than I want. I want smoke from wood. I don't want smoke from charcoal. But in any case, not answering your question, watching the equipment changes, and of course, thermometers, that has to be the biggest
Yeah.
thing. When I started out, thermometers were a little round dial with a probe, and they took 30 seconds or more to get up to temp, and they couldn't be relied on. And if you still
Yeah, they
have
weren't
one,
accurate.
take it out, put it in your driveway, and back your car over it. If you don't have a good digital thermometer,
Digital, yeah.
And you know, I'm using now the Fireboard, which is over $100, but you can get really good digital thermometers for under 30. We have on AmazingRibs.com an electrical engineer, a guy named Bill McGrath. He used to be in charge of electrical engineering at Mobile. He retired and now he's working part-time for us, and he tests thermometers. And we have like 300 deep thermometer testing results, you know, special machines that measure how accurate they are, measure how long they take to read. And he does all that. So if you're shopping for a thermometer, you can search that database that he has on AmazingRibs.com. We don't sell any of them, but there's links to where you can buy them. And if you're just not working with a digital thermometer, you're not cooking properly. It's the most important tool. Yeah. So that's a big one. The other thing is what's going on right now. And I touched upon it earlier. I think the invasion of American barbecue by other culinary cuisines, Asian, Spanish, Mexican, Italian, French, just about anything you cook indoors, you can cook outdoors. So come up with your favorite French recipe and move it onto the grill. And you can do this. I just saw Bobby Flay or somebody doing chicken cordon bleu on the grill.
Mm-hmm.
Why not? Why not? I mean, so especially if you've got good thermometers, you've got good temperature control. And that's kind of what I've tried to do in my book. I think that there's more and more of this coming. I think Michael Simon, the Iron Chef from the Food Network, I guess he's got a new book out this spring, me too. And apparently that's one of his themes. And I'm going to reach out to him and say, hey, we're both on the same wavelength. We ought to do something together.
I think thermometers is a big one, and so is the Wi-Fi, Bluetooth controlling the grills is one of the bigger things, and that's really come forward in the last 5 years. I mean, you started out with kind of, well, you know, it might be accurate. We don't know. We've got these, you know, PID controllers that we think are kind of accurate, to now where they're full blown. You can sit there in your office and watch your meat cooking and look at the temperature of what the food is, what the temperature of the grill. You can adjust it and all that. It'll let you know. You can go to the store and get something and still make sure that it's not
right. I've done it. I've gone to the store and I'm watching my temperatures. Yeah. You can be on an airplane flying from LaGuardia to O'Hare and watching your brisket cook.
I get notifications when I'm out of town. I have an air fryer that's got Wi-Fi, and it'll tell me the food's done, and I'm not home because I know my wife's cooking. It'll tell me.
You know what, Darren? I don't use it.
Yeah,
I still want to walk out to my deck and lift the lid,
use it, but I don't use it as much.
And get a smell and poke it a little. Now I watch the thermometers. I pay close attention to the thermometers. Yeah. But I really don't use my smartphone to help me when cooking much. I know a lot of people do. I'm just old guard, you know, I'm inbuilt in my habits. But I don't use my smartphone for cooking very much.
And the wireless thermometers now, there's so many of them. It started out with one or two, came out with the meter and all that. And
I just got today the latest.
There's so many of them.
The latest probe from Fireboard.
Yeah.
And it's a wireless probe, and it looks very cool. It's charging now. I haven't used it yet.
Well, one of the good things when they came out, I love to use it in sous vide cooking because it lets you monitor when the meat gets to the temperature you're wanting to cook it to. People go, why would you need to know? Because the water temperature doesn't move. And it's like, yeah, but you want to know if you got let's just say you got a half a chicken in there. You want to know when it gets up to temperature because you don't want it to
Hmm.
get tender. You don't want to leave it in there for 3 hours if you don't have to. If
Yeah.
it gets, to temperature in 2 hours, you can take it out and then finish
Hmm.
it up. So, um, but yeah, those wireless, there's so many different uses. People go, well, the first thing they think of is a rotisserie chicken. There's no wire, so I can use it to monitor that rotisserie chicken. But there's so many other things you can use it for and not have to worry about the wires. So, all right, let's get into your book because we could talk about equipment all night long. But I know that you probably touch on some of this in your new book, The Meathead Method, which you got there, and I have right here too, so everybody
Oh,
knows.
you got an advanced copy. That's right. I forgot.
Yeah,
Lucky you. They just
look
came
at.
out like a week ago, and they're going out
Oh, I
to
just got it last week.
Darren.
So
Darren,
yeah,
they're only being sent to VIPs.
yeah, I
I'm
feel
serious.
special.
So if you're, I put you on the list. So you were on the VIP list. You got a copy. Most media are still waiting for their copies.
Well,
So
I looked through it. I mean, I can tell you that this book is well put together. It's got plenty of, just like on the website, everything that you explain it to where the novice can understand it.
I'm flattered you think so. This is a goal of mine. When I was an undergrad, I mentioned photography, and by the way, I did all the photography. There's over 400 pictures in here, and I've really amped up my skills. There's some really beautiful pictures in there. I'm very proud of. And I took photography when I was an undergrad at the University of Florida from a guy named Jerry Ulsman. And his name is known only to those who are into art photography, but he was one of the 100 best photographers of the 20th century. Brilliant, talented gentleman. And I learned an awful lot about creativity and art and photography from him. But the uh, where was I going with this? Oh, God. Um, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on in there that I had not done previously. I tried to pick up on new techniques that weren't covered in the last book. And things like I didn't talk about dry brining in the first book, so I dive into it on this one. Deep frying on a gas grill and wok cooking on a charcoal chimney.
Oh, on
Sous
sous
vide
vide.
cube. There's a
Yeah,
section
you
on
got
sous
you got
vide
a
cube.
section on sous vide Q too.
Yeah,
But yeah,
something
so
I
that's
didn't
one.
talk
I know
about.
that's some of the things that are different than the first book because things have advanced, like we're talking about. Some
Yeah.
of the equipment's advanced, some of the
Well,
techniques have kind of
when that
advanced,
book
and
came out 10 years ago, nobody had
yeah,
sous vide equipment. Now
right,
a lot of people do.
yeah.
I teach how to smoke with tea and herbs and spices. There's a big section on how to build your own rubs and sauces. We talk about technique like the inverse square law, and how energy dissipates over distance and how that relates to how close you put the food to the fire. We talk about reverse sear. That wasn't covered in the first book. How to
Well,
beat the stall. We talk
yeah.
about the smoking gun, um, injecting, how to build an injection, ponassing, which is a really interesting technique for salmon, and so on. So there's a lot of new stuff in this book.
One of the things that I really enjoyed about your first book and AmazingRibs.com and especially this new book, because I haven't read the whole thing, I haven't had it long enough, but I've read, probably about the first chapter and I've skimmed through some of it just so I could talk intelligently about it. But the focus that you have on explaining the science of cooking to me is very important. I'm one that needs to know the why. I'm not one who's just, unfortunately in the barbecue world, there's more of these people that just like, I was told by this one guy to put it on at 225 and wrap it at
Mhm.
this and do that. And they don't understand why and what they're doing or the whole process. And
Well,
if it
it's the
comes out
old
good, it comes out good. They're hit or miss kind of thing. And
it's the old shibboleth: teach a man to fish, or give a man a fish. Most of us learned how to barbecue and grill from our dads,
yeah,
and our dads learned from their dads, and their dads and their dads. Now, a lot of women are more. That's something that's changing. We were talking about changes in a minute ago. More women are doing it now.
yeah.
It's still primarily a male thing, but more and more women are doing it.
Well,
Um,
I'm surprised though, because I grew up, cooking with my mom, and I worked in the restaurant business for 10 years when I first started working. And
Hmm.
all they did was showed me processes. Here's how we want you to cook it. Here's how the recipe is. And it was never, this is the why. This is how we do it. So even though
Well,
I was in restaurant business, I never learned the why, or this is
well,
why we use this
most
particular.
restaurants
Yeah,
don't have the time to teach the why,
right.
but this is 2025, and it's a highly technical world we live in, and everybody wants to know why. And I think that's the success I've been lucky enough to stumble into. I want to know why. I went out to find out why. I started busting the myths that I learned from my dad that everybody talks about. And so, people nowadays, they look at a recipe and they want to know, why do I do step one? And what happens if I don't do step one? What
Right.
happens if I swap white sugar for brown sugar? And I think people have these questions because of our interest in technology. So I have tried to cater to that. That's my métier. That's what, I'm known for, is I'm the geeky guy. And that suits me fine because I am geeky and I want to know why, and I try to
Yeah.
find out why.
Hey, it's Darren. I want to make sure you check out Fire and Water Cooking Edible Creations, Seasonings, and Sauces. The black garlic we use is the highest quality domestic black garlic you can find, from the black garlic and herb compound butter to the blueberry and black garlic to our all-purpose black garlic and our black garlic and coffee seasoning. All are amazing, made with the highest quality ingredients. You can find them on Amazon, Walmart.com, and on fireandwatercooking.com. Check them out,
Now,
guys.
why?
Well, one of the biggest things that really sparked my interest was the whole thing about brines and marinades and salt, and
Mm-hmm.
why you can have oranges and lemons and onions and all kinds of other stuff in your brine, but all it's going to do is coat the surface of the meat.
Yeah, and that's
The
a
only thing
really
that's going to
important.
it's the only thing that's going to penetrate into the meat is the salt, and it
Yep.
doesn't carry any of that stuff with it.
No.
It's a chemical
Yeah,
reaction.
a lot of people misunderstand what brines and marinades do. The key here is a piece of meat is pretty much fully saturated. Unless it's been left out to dehydrate, there's no room for liquid in there. It's fully saturated. You could take a chicken breast and weigh it, and then soak it in a brine
Orange
or in
juice.
water overnight, and weigh it again, and it weighs the same because there's no room for more water in there. But salt is the magic rock. Salt is just two atoms, sodium and chloride, and they're hooked together. And when they get wet on the surface of the meat, they can split. It's called ionizing, and they can get electric charges and they can go deep. And when they go deep, they do cool stuff. They denature the proteins, which means they basically change the structure of protein so it can hold on to more moisture. That's cool. It also amplifies flavor without altering it. Garlic alters flavor, pepper alters flavor, salt doesn't. So it does a lot of cool stuff. But on the classic case is people come around on Thanksgiving, and they buy a big old turkey, and then they get a beer cooler, and they pour 2 gallons of apple juice in it,
Yeah.
and half a cup of black pepper, half a cup of garlic powder, half a cup of onion powder, and all that stuff goes in there, and it can't penetrate the meat. And if you think about it, when you carve up a turkey breast, you don't taste garlic powder and pepper and
No.
other things in the middle of that turkey breast. You may taste it on the surface, but it doesn't get in. It can get into the little tiny cracks and pores on the surface, but it can't get deep. The salt can get deep. And that's a core concept that I've been teaching for years. And I think everybody now is, not everybody, but a lot of people have figured this out. Salt is the magic rock. Get the salt on there in advance, maybe a couple hours for a steak, overnight for a turkey breast or a pork loin. It moves slowly. It takes time for it to penetrate, but it really is worth it. And the other stuff, you don't have to put it on if you've got a spice rub. I mean, I built a couple of commercial rubs. We're discontinuing them. They're really good, but they're just not a money maker for us. But this stuff just sits on the surface.
Yeah.
And in fact, most of these rubs are 50% salt anyhow.
Most of the cookbooks that I used to read or look at before, and even some of the barbecue books, they really never focused on the why and why this does it. You and Alton Brown and Kenji and some of the others were kind of the ones once I started reading you guys. When I first saw my first episode of Alton Brown's show, The Good Eats, was like, holy cow, this guy's telling me why everything, and I loved it. I sit down, I could sit there and watch Alton Brown for all day long, because this is the first guy that was telling me why this was doing what it was doing, and why the things work the way they do. But
you mentioned the name of two of my heroes.
I
Kenji
know.
Lopez Alt wrote the foreword to my first book, Meathead, top one.
Mm-hmm.
Alton Brown wrote the foreword to my new book.
Right.
And he's gonna be in Chicago tomorrow. That's where I am.
Oh, cool.
And I'm gonna go see him. Tell
him I said hello. Tell him
I will.
Tell him I'm one of his first and top fans, because like I said,
me too.
That's what I'm drawn to, is when I first started watching Good Eats, and then I found Amazing Ribs and just all the stuff that in your book and everything, just it clicks. I want to know why, and you're telling me why, and you're telling me why this doesn't work, and why the beer can chicken doesn't do anything. That it's these people that sit there, you try to have them explain to me why this works then, and they can't, because they have no science behind it.
Well, the other thing is when I explain why beer can chicken doesn't work the way that you think it does, they get upset. This is religion. This is that little Buddha sitting there is God, and I have just disavowed that God. And I have an article on AmazingRibs.com, and also in my first book, where I explain beer can chicken doesn't work the way you think it does, and there are better ways to cook chicken. Right. And I get hate mail. I mean, so far nobody's threatened to kill me, but they've come close. The problem is, again, as I said, a chicken is fully saturated. There's no room for the beer to get in. And second of all, if you stick a beer can up the butt of a chicken, the chicken comes out of the fridge at 38 degrees. You put it on the beer can, and what have you done? You've made a chicken koozie. You have wrapped the chicken in 38 degree, the beer in 38 degree chicken. You have insulated. It's not getting hotter than the chicken. You formed a thermal lens, and if you take the chicken off,
it doesn't get cooked.
if you take the chicken off at 160 to 165 when it's done, beer doesn't start to boil and steam until 212. It's 95% or 90% water. So there's no steam coming out of that beer can. And even if it did, it's got no place to go. And if it got anywhere, it would reach just under the shoulders, because it's crammed all the way up into the chest. It's not getting all the way down into the legs and thighs. So, I mean, if you've got a listener out there who still believes in that little Buddha, go to read on AmazingRibs.com the article on beer can chicken.
Or get your new book, because it's in there as well.
Actually, that's in the first book, I think.
I think it's in the second. I thought I read it.
Maybe it is.
It's in the other one too. Yeah,
I can't.
It touches on it. It touches on when it's talking about methods. So this gets to the big important point. Why do you think it's important for people to know the science behind cooking when they're cooking? Oh. Why do you think it makes a difference? Why do you think they just can't?
You've been asking really good questions, and that's a dumb question.
Well, but people will sit there and argue, well, I just read the recipe my mom made, and that's all I need to know,
Yeah, I think it's the teach a man to fish or give a man a fish. I think that if you know what happens when heat hits protein, if you know that when you cook at high temperatures, you shrink the muscle fibers and squeeze out the juices, you can improve your cooking. If you know that salt will penetrate but nothing else will, you can improve your cooking. So the whole sciencey stuff isn't just a gimmick to sell books. It's to help teach. I'm a teacher. It's to help teach people how to improve their cooking, how to get better at it, and the techniques and the concepts and the methods that will improve their cooking. And so that's where the science comes in. It's all about the method.
Well, and like I said, the way you explain the science behind it. It's not overwhelming to me. It's not something that, goes over my head. You explain it in a way that most novices can understand.
Ah,
And
now you remind me why I brought up Jerry Ullsman. When I was an undergrad, I took classes in photography from Jerry, and that's what Jerry did beautifully. He taught the concepts. He explained, and he explained. He was very high level, very advanced, but he could explain to a freshman how and why in plain language that I could understand. And that was a teaching technique that I learned to admire. And you were asking about my ability or so-called ability to communicate, and also um, uh, this science stuff. There's a professor at Boston University, Greg Blonder, who found my website in the early years, and we began talking. And I asked him, I said, "There's this weird phenomenon that happens when you cook a pork butt. And that is the temperature goes up to about 150, 160, and then it stops. And it holds there for hours. Meanwhile, my wife is in the dining room saying, the company's arriving. Where the hell's the pork?
right.
And why does it do that? And so he and I designed some experiments, and he executed experiments, and we found out why that happens. And it happens because of something called evaporative cooling. Basically, the pork butt is sweating. Moist, it's meat is about 75% water, and moisture is in there. And so as it's cooking, the moisture is evaporating off the surface. And as it's evaporating, it's cooling the meat. So it's really not heating up. It's cooling at the same rate that the warm air is heating it. It reaches a stasis. And what happens eventually is the surface dries out. The surface becomes a crust. We love it. It's the bark. It's basically the same phenomenon as jerky. It dries out, it becomes crusty, and we love that bark. And now the moisture stops evaporating from the surface, so it's not cooling, just like, when you go out and cut the lawn and you're sweating, it cools. And the interior of the meat can start to rise again in temperature. And we proved that, or he proved that. And he's worked with me. I'm not a scientist. I have always had an interest in science. I won the science fair in high school. But Professor Blonder has really been my seeing eye dog. He's just, whenever I run into a problem, I go to him for an answer, and he's got it. And we've talked a lot about the science of food and cooking. He's really a cool guy.
Well, like I said, to me, that's makes all the difference. And I love the fact that you try to debunk a lot of these myths, like we were talking about the beer can chicken, because
Mhm.
one of the things, especially when I first got started talking to people in the barbecue forums, and they would say, "Well, this is how I do it," and I would go, "Well, why? Why does that work?" And they're like, "I don't know. I just saw somebody do it this way, and it works for me." And
Well,
they still do
you,
that today. You'll tell somebody, well, no, there's a better way to do it, and they go, no, I'm just going to keep doing it the way I do it, and
mhm.
because I like it the way it is, and
Yeah.
they won't even try using a proper cooking technique because they don't want to be proven wrong or anything. So
Well,
it's just there's a
we
lot of pride and
experienced that
egos, I guess, in
when
barbecue.
Blonder
So
and I published his paper, his research on the stall, which is that phenomenon I just talked about, that the meat stops going up in temperature until the surface dries out. We published a lengthy article and detailed his experiments and everything on AmazingRibs.com. And I went to a couple of the forums. We didn't have our own forum at that time. And I
mhm.
went to some of the popular forums, and I said, "Hey, we have finally figured it out."
Hmm.
And the boy did we get blowback. No,
Yeah.
no, it's collagen melting. No, no, it's fat rendering. No, no, what you the fuck? You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And we got all of that blowback. And of course we were right, and we proved it. And the world has come to accept it, and people now know that it is a fact.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot of that. And I don't think it's just in barbecue. I think it's cooking in general because there's a lot of, you know, professional chefs that went to culinary school that don't believe in sous vide. And they will, and you're like,
Oh, don't believe in
really?
sous vide. They don't believe in thermometers.
I know.
I mean,
I gotta pinch the steak.
turn on
I
the
can
cooking
pinch the steak.
channel, and they're still poking the steak with their finger.
I know.
Oh yeah, this when it's done, it feels like this, and
Yeah.
they're poking their hand or their nose. I
Their
mean, for
cheek.
crying out loud, people, if you're not cooking with a digital thermometer, you're not cooking. You're not a cook. It's all about temperature. Cooking is all about temperature. Period.
And we don't live in the Stone Age anymore. We have tools now that you can use to help you do it right instead of trying
I
to
mean,
go, is this medium rare or is this
yeah.
medium rare?
How many times did in the olden days did you serve steaks to people and have to apologize?
Exactly.
I haven't had to do that in 20 years.
Right. And now,
I use a thermometer and I deliver perfectly cooked steaks.
yeah, and we didn't even understand what the overcooking was, how they continue to
carry over sure.
cooking and all that. We didn't even
Yeah,
understand
take
what that
your
was.
turkey,
So
take your turkey out of the oven and let it sit for an hour.
Hey.
So you take it out at 160, 165, and it goes up to 170, and it goes from tender and juicy to cardboard.
Exactly. Sawdust. So what else can we talk about? You're sitting there drinking a glass of wine, making me want me to get one. So I want everybody to understand that the Meathead Method comes out when?
May 13th. You can
May 13th?
pre-order it now.
Is it on Amazon pre-order?
It's on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and other places, but don't do it. We're getting ready a special offer, and we haven't announced it yet, but if you buy the book, and actually you could go ahead and buy it now. It won't make a difference. You can buy it now if you buy the book and you take a picture of yourself holding the book and post it to social media, we'll send you a free ebook that we're finishing writing on hamburgers.
Nice.
We have 6 or 7 ebooks that we've published for $3.99 on Amazon and elsewhere, and they're good. They're focused on turkey and steak and chicken, brisket, and so on. There's even one on sous vide.
Yeah.
You can get those ebooks for $3.99, but we have a good new one on hamburgers. I'm almost done with it. And if you post a picture of yourself with the book on social media, we'll send you the free ebook.
Nice. So let's talk a little bit about sous vide because me and you were on a sous vide cruise not too long ago. It was the first ever sous vide cruise, which I thought they did a really good job. We were on Virgin Voyages. We were on Virgin Voyages, and they took care of us. They let us use their test kitchen facilities, and we got to do a galley tour as well. Were you able to look at the galley?
No, we didn't. I got into the galleys at a separate time because I went the first night there. We ate in the Mexican restaurant, and the steak blew me out of my chair. Now, I've had some pretty good steaks. I've cooked some pretty good steaks. I was blown away by the Mexican restaurant steak, and I had to learn out how they did it. So I immediately went after the head chef, and he took me backstage. So I got a little bit, but you guys got the better tour than I did. Let me give some background here. Mike Lasciarti, who is the head of the International Sous Vide Association, which I think is free membership. So if you're into sous vide or experimenting with it, go to isva.org, I think it is, or .com. Just Google International.
It's theisva.org.
isva.org.
Theisva.org.
Theisva.org?
Yeah.
Okay. Sign up. It's free, I think. And there's a lot of good recipes and techniques and some really talented chefs in there. Because the trick to sous vide, of course, is figuring out what the correct time and temp for your tastes are. But in any case, Mike put together this group, and we did there were 4 chefs and some really good sous vide cooks. Plus, the audience included one Darren Wilson. So there was some really knowledgeable people around. And we did some demos and some tastings and had a lot of fun. And then, it was a cruise, so we got to go ashore in Bimini and Mexico, and the Virgin cruise that's a nice boat, and
Yeah.
they have really good restaurants on board. I was delighted with the food. I'm not paid to say this. It was just a good time.
Yeah, we had a great time, and I think they did it up well. I think Mike and Jason and all them, um, David and Eric, they all did a really great job. You did as well, and I think people got a lot out of it, and it was really something that I looked forward to being in that with people who are like me or nerds about cooking. So it's always good to hang around with people that have the same interests as
The
you.
audience was all nerd,
Yeah,
but
but
nice
it's a
nerd,
good,
nice
yeah, but
nerds,
it's a good thing.
nice
We
nerds who
didn't
like.
argue about stuff. We just talked about science and cooking and how to use
Mhm.
sous vide. So it was
And
really a
we did
great time.
demonstrations. I cooked 2 recipes, and everybody else did. Dave Petranzik, who works for
Breville.
Breville, thank you, did some amazing cocktails.
Yeah. Well, I
And
know that you were interested in the cocktails because I know
yes, of
you're
course,
writing a cocktail book, right?
I am. But it was just really good, and the demonstrations, the slideshows were first rate. There was some really good chefs on board, so it was a lot of fun. And
Yeah.
if you're not familiar with International Sous Vide Association, check
Yeah,
them
and you
out.
can find them on Facebook as well. So you can search International Sous Vide Association. They do some online presentations as well that usually don't cost anything. Every once in a while, they'll do a online one they may charge you some money for, but they usually have like a whole day's worth of presentations when they do those. So, but if you ever want to touch on sous vide, check it out. But make sure you pick up Meathead's The Meathead Method coming out on May,
May
I'm sorry,
13th. May
May
13th.
13th, and
But you
pre-order it
can
now.
pre-order it now on
Yeah,
Amazon.
and pick up his other book too if you don't have it, because like I said, the new book's going to have some different stuff to it. It's going to expand on what's in the first book, so it's always good to have both references because, like I said, you can learn a lot. You can learn a lot of good methods. We didn't get too into the seasonings and all that, why you don't put salt in your seasonings and all that, but that's something people can learn about. There's a lot of different science that goes into cooking. Meathead puts it into uh, words that any novice can understand, and you'll definitely be able to be a better cook. And you can use these techniques in all cooking methods. It's not just barbecue and outdoor cooking. You can use them in any kind of cooking method, whether you're cooking inside or outside. So
I'm flattered you think so.
I really do. And I want to thank you again, Meathead, for being on. And I look forward to seeing you again soon, maybe next year on the next Sous Vide Cruise.
Um, Mike is planning an event at Weber headquarters,
Oh, really?
tentatively in August. It hasn't been
Well,
announced yet, but it will be a sous vide Q event.
awesome.
And I'll be doing fried chicken,
Nice.
and I'm starting, of course, with sous vide, which I thought I
And
invented until you proved me wrong.
I'm sorry. But hey, these are all good things though. And just teaching people how to make better food is what we look forward to. So, all righty,
Darren,
sir.
I always enjoy talking to you. We are brothers by different mothers. It was fun hanging with you on board the ship. Cocktails, food, good company.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
and anytime you get bored or you can't find a good guest, call me up.
Well, thanks again, and thanks for the book. And definitely pick this book up on Amazon. You can pre-order right now. Thanks again, sir. It's good seeing you. I'll see you guys all on the next Fire and Water Cooking podcast. Thanks again for joining us here on the Fire and Water Cooking and Travel podcast. Make sure you check out the Meathead Method. Like I said, you could pre-order it now on Amazon in the link below. But check it out. Make sure you also follow Fire and Water Cooking and Fire and Water Travel. You can check it out at fireandwatercooking.com or fireandwatertravel.com. Thanks for listening and watching, and I'll see you again on the next Fire and Water Cooking and Travel podcast.